At the age of 40, I found myself in the really difficult, quite horrible position of starting again with pretty much next to nothing. Fast forward 18 years, at the age of 58, in just over a month's time, I will be retiring, never to work again. Hi, hello, and thanks for stopping by again and watching the video. This, I believe, is my fourth video of the Retiring at 58 What Now series. And when I said at the age of 40 I found myself starting over again, I'm just gonna, well, what I'm not gonna do is, as I've said in previous videos, I'm not going to give financial advice to people on retirement. It's not my bag, it's not my area of expertise, and therefore it would be wrong to do so. But what I did think was a really useful idea was to share my experience, share my scenario of how I've got myself into a position where I can retire in just over a month at the age of 58. And also show that journey that 18 years ago really wasn't looking that clever. And so if there's any 40-year-olds watching who don't think it's possible to retire at 58, then hopefully this gives people some hope. But equally, if there's other people of a similar age to myself and you've had a similar journey or a different journey, then we can share those experiences in the comments and talk about it. So when I say at the age of 40, so 18 years ago, I found myself in a difficult position. What I meant by that is it was at a time at the age of 40 I was getting divorced and I found myself starting all over again. I hadn't got a house, I hadn't got any savings. In fact, the only thing I'd got going for me, which were two good things, was that I was still in a reasonably good job and I had started a defined benefits pension at the age of 21. And those were the two things I had to my name. However, in terms of what was then the here and now, it was a really difficult time. I hadn't got anywhere to live, as I said, because I hadn't got any money that I could put down on a deposit for a house. So I ended up spending a year living with my very best friend, who very kindly let me have a room in his house, pay rent obviously, and lived there for a year. We went to festivals, we went to concerts, and we had a pretty good time actually, which was much needed after divorce. But then, so that was 2008, and then in 2010 it was time to try and get back on my feet a bit and try and find a little bit of independence. And what I mean by that is I wanted a place of my own, but it was difficult at that time. It was not long after the big crash of 2008, and all the mortgage rules had changed. So whilst I'd got a reasonably good job, I hadn't got any savings as such, and therefore I hadn't got a deposit to buy a new house. And it was at a time when they'd moved away from having 100% mortgages, and I think it moved to 80%. So in 2010, to get back on the ladder, I got myself a one-bedroom flat, and to do that I had to take a loan out to get the deposit, and I had an interest-only mortgage. So still not the best position, but it was a step on the ladder. And what that did was give me that sense of independence, give me back something that was mine again, albeit a very small flat, but it was a good starting point. And in the background I was saving, you know, probably the wrong move I made at that stage was having an interest-only mortgage, because I wasn't actually paying off the capital. This was a lesson I found out later on in life. Instead, I was saving and saving and saving. So that was 2010. And then in 2015 was my big boy moment. I was starting to get back on my feet, and I loved the flat that I lived in. It was very handy. It was in the middle of town, next to a pub, which was next to a Indian restaurant, which was next to a cafe, which was next to the barber that I went. So everything was really handy. But anyway, I'm going off track. When I say into 2015 I became a big boy again, I wanted to move out of the flat and into a house. So I sold the flat, I bought a house, not this time with an interest-only mortgage. I did get it so that I could pay it back. And my sole intention was, now that I'd got this bit of experience under my belt, I realised that was saving a good amount, but actually that money wasn't really working too well for me. So when I say I became a big boy, I bought the house. Rather than save, I made sure I paid as much off my mortgage as I could. And then by 2018, I was actually mortgage free, which put me in a strong position in terms of having cash available to me, disposable income. I still didn't learn the lesson at that stage, because from that point on, all I did was save, save, save. And it made me feel secure, and it made me feel quite confident because I could see my bank account going up. It was a savings account as well as a current account, so there was a level of interest. But nothing that you could really write home about, nothing that would secure me for the future. So whilst I was happy that I hadn't got a mortgage, it took me a little while to realise that actually all this disposable income that I'd got that was going into savings wasn't actually working for me. And it was only in 2021 that we'd stopped paying the defined benefits, or we would stopped having the availability of the defined benefits pension by this time, and we've gone into defined contribution. And it was at that point that I decided that I was going to maximise the amount that I put into my pension. Again, in a fortunate position where the maximum I could put in was 21% of my salary, and then my company also put in 9%. So in total, from 2021, I was putting in 30% of my salary into my pension, whilst at the same time not having a mortgage, and therefore I was still finding that I was able to live a really good lifestyle. I say really good, nothing too lavish, but a reasonably good lifestyle, and still save some. So everything was tracking in the right direction 5 years ago. And it's that last 5 years that really made the difference. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, I don't profess to understand it, but that compound growth in pensions, along with the sensible decisions I made in the past around being a bit frugal, making sure that I saved, and making sure I paid off things like my mortgage, meant that when I got into this year, 2026, then I was able to seriously take a look at what all the numbers meant, what my investments meant to me, what I'd need for the future. And it soon dawned upon me that I was able to, or I found myself in a position where I could actually retire, and again retire quite comfortably. So it can be done. It can be done. It's probably not for everybody, and not everybody has the same priorities, but that was the approach that worked for me. There's a lot of learning along the way, and a lot of mistakes being made. I saved for a lot longer than I needed to, but thankfully it's all turned out. So moving forwards into retirement, and I thought that, so in showing the journey up until this point, I want to now predict the future and just show how I intend to live, and live well for hopefully a long time. And this is the strategy that I am going to apply. So moving on to the strategy, bearing in mind I am not a financial expert, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not qualified, I've got no previous experience of this at all. What I am is a little bit obsessive around numbers, and I need in life a really strong sense of security. So I've gone through this process of looking at this model, and again, it may not be the right model. I'll continue to review it and look at it, and if I need to change it, I will. But equally, one of the reasons for putting this out there is to get feedback from you folks who are watching it, to see if you've done something similar, you've done something different. And if you spot any red flags where I've really got it wrong, I go, no, don't do that. But anyway, here's my, I'll call it my bucket list. This is how I am going to live and look after myself financially from August the 15th, 2026. So given that I've called it my bucket list, I've got 6 buckets here. Number 1 being savings. I've also got in number 2 some ISAs and premium bonds. Number 3 is my defined contribution pension. Number 4 is my defined benefit pension. Number 5 is my defined contribution and defined benefit pension. And finally at number 6 is my state pension. And I've put them in that order for a reason. These are the buckets that I have available to me, and this is how I've planned to make sure that from 58 through to whenever it is that I no longer need money, as in die, this hopefully is the plan that's going to see me through. So I'll talk you through a little bit more about each of these buckets, how I'm going to use them and when I'm going to use them. So in bucket 1, my savings. As I said already in this video, I've always been quite good at saving, and also in recent times I've discovered just how good pensions can work for you. They can obviously go the other way, they can lose money, but so far so good for me. So what I don't want to do in August of this year, 2026, what I don't want to do in the first instance is start using those pensions, whether it be the defined benefit or the defined contribution. Neither in the first instance do I want to take my lump sum, because I want to keep all of that money invested for the longest possible time to help secure the future. So in the first instance, when I get to August, I'll be 58, I am 58. So between that time and when I reach 60, I will take a salary out of my savings. And I've done all the budgets, the forecasts of what I think I need to live on by that point, and that looks like a really good, healthy model. The second stage following on from that is my ISAs and my premium bonds. And again, I will use the money invested in those things to take a salary between the age of 60 and 62. So all that time still not dipping into either of my pensions, because I want them to hopefully grow and grow and grow. I'll need to keep an eye on them, because if they start going down during this time, then it might be a bit scary, but we shall see. And then the third stage of this bucket list plan, I've got my defined contributions pension, and I'm not going to start drawing at that point. What I'm going to do is take the 25% tax-free lump sum, leave the rest invested, and then live off that lump sum. Similar for stage 4, but this time from my defined benefit my defined benefit pension, I will take the 25% tax-free lump sum and live off that until I am 65. So you can see throughout all of that time, that is hopefully, leaving the right money in the right places to invest, but also, as far as I understand it, is a very good tax efficient way of taking those pensions, and tax efficient way of living life between the age of 58 and 65. So when I get to 65, I'll still have the amounts invested in my defined contribution and my defined benefits pension. God, this is getting tricky. Hope you're sticking with me. And the benefit of a defined benefits pension is that from the point I start taking it, I get a guaranteed income through to the point that I'm no longer on this planet. I don't know why I don't like saying dead or dying, but it could happen at any time. So yes, what I will do is draw down from those 2 pensions to give me an income that partly is guaranteed, and at this point I still have savings left from the buckets that I've mentioned previously. And then of course at the age of 67, I get to take the state pension, which again, for as long as you live, because of the time that I've worked and the amount that I've put into my contributions, both the defined benefits and the state pension are guaranteed income, and the defined contribution is a bit more variable and flexible, but it's another level of income. So come 67, I will be drawing from all of my pensions and will still have enough money left in savings to help me out if I need it, go on holidays, buy a car when I need to, if the roof falls in, get that done, although you probably get that done on insurance. So yes, I hope you managed to follow that okay, and I hope I managed to articulate it in a way that was understood and made sense. But as I say, the main reason for doing this video is, one, obviously to add to the number of videos that I'm getting on this channel, but two, show anybody that may be around the age of 40 who doesn't yet feel like they've got a plan. Don't lose heart, it really is possible. And then three, start a debate. Let's start talking about it. Let's get views from other people. Feedback to me if you think it's really not a good plan, or if there's anything you took from it that could be useful to you. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye bye.